social media is the front lawn, and you got to keep that clean. And we tell them that all the time, because you put the wrong thing on social media, you say the wrong thing on social media, it's going to turn a college coach off, and then that opportunity could go away. So that's such a big piece to personal development, and social media is a great one to bring up, because we talk about it all the time with net results. So
Absolutely.
Let's go back to the academic piece. If I'm a student and I'm struggling in a particular class, how can your guys' tutoring and support, how can you help me in that class?
Yeah, so we maintain a bank of certified school teachers and school counselors. At the college level, we have college professors that help with if you're at the high school level and you're taking an AP course or some advanced course at the college level. We have those courses as well, but we have individuals that can help offer one-to-one support. We do that asynchronously or synchronously, so that means either submitting through a submission. I need help with this homework item, and you submit it much like email. You attach it in your account and send it to an individual to get feedback back. Or you can set up one-to-one sessions through our platforms, the platform that we use, which happens to be Zoom. And you would connect with a individual that would help you with your coursework, whatever class that you're struggling with. We really focus on students when they come in and they're requesting assistance to really explain and kind of describe what they're having issues with. We're not answer givers, but we are academic helpers. We're not going to give you the answer, but we want you to be able to express where you're confused on a specific assignment and what you don't understand, or you don't understand how to approach it in this way. The more that you can understand that and you can articulate that, the stronger you'll get in your academics, because you're able to really pinpoint what your issues are, kind of self-assess. You can communicate correctly, all these things. And so we really focus in on that, so that when our coaches get the information from the student, it's pretty tight, it's pretty comprehensive. They understand it, and then they can really help the student approach, whatever they need in order to get their assignments done or to understand concepts.
I love that you're not an answer giver. I got yelled at many times by students because I would just give me the answer. Just give me the answer.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
you gotta, I'll help you get out of this situation, but that's great that the kids have to break it down and explain. And in identifying their problem, sounds like they can probably figure it out. They're already halfway there. They just need that little nudge.
Absolutely. Yep. That's 100% what it's all about.
Cedric, I know that I noticed on your website you guys provide writing support, which I think is a great thing for high school students, because that's one of those things where I don't think teachers really have the time to sit down with individual students and help them with their writing. And I think in today's age, and Matt, being a former school teacher, you could probably back me up on this. A lot of kids write like they text. They write an essay, they write a paper like they text. There's a lot of grammatical errors in there. So how does your writing support play into improving student outcomes, and what do you guys do to support that?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And absolutely right. Writing skills has depreciated a little bit through the years. And so what we do, and we approach it kind of in two different ways. Systemically, within the school system, we work closely and tie into the school systems, our school clients, and work with their English department and writing teachers, those folks, to integrate our platform, our coaches, our content experts, to help provide more support for the teacher. Because you're right, Steve, they don't have time. So a lot of the submissions that come in from classrooms go directly, not to the teacher, but go directly to our folks, our staff, and then we do the work and present it back to the teacher, which gives more detailed, comprehensive feedback to students, because the teacher, not that they can't do that, they just don't have the time to do that. From outside of the school standpoint, we work with students with all aspects of their research papers, writing assignments, anything that they may have that they need help or assistance with. We help them. We've got folks that understand the different types of writing, essay formats, research paper formats. We assist with all of that. One big and critical thing that we do that's really important is we have specific programs that relate to the application process. So your college app, your college essay, those things, we work extensively with students independently and within the school systems on their college essays, their scholarship essays. All of these things, we help make sure that they understand that they how to write, how to format, how to put them together, and how to really pick the right subject matter and topics that would attract college or a university in terms of the student being a candidate for admittance. So we work with them in all those different ways. It's really, I guess, rooted to the platform. There's a space in the platform that allows feedback back and forth from our content expert and the student to really work through the different breakdown and work through the different segments that they're writing. And so, yeah, it works really well, really comprehensive.
That's great. That's great.
Let's shift gears and talk a little more athlete focused. And you guys have a STARS program, your Student Athlete Readiness Series. What was your inspiration to start that for student athletes or prospective student athletes?
Yeah, so the Student Athlete Readiness Series fits under our athlete prep segment or umbrella. And the inspiration for that was actually kind of a comparison between my recruiting experience coming out of high school and my daughter's, who I guess 2 years ago came out as a volleyball athlete out of high school. And so I am obviously way older than my daughter, so it was a way earlier time. And we didn't have club sports. I played basketball. We didn't have club sports or any of those things. I had, two loving parents that are in the home, but that were in home with me, but they didn't play sports, and so they didn't really understand the process. And so there's a lot of things that I missed out on in my recruiting process, and therefore landed at a university that I kind of fell back to. They really didn't want me. It really didn't work out after some time. My daughter, in contrast, had two parents who understood the recruiting process quite intently. She had two coaches, her high school coach and her club coach, that were involved in her process. And so just the stark difference between my experience and my daughter's experience was really really enlightening, and it's kind of part of the emphasis and passion behind the Student Athlete Readiness Series. It's to make sure that people understand the important elements of the whole process and how to improve their chances or their odds to gaining a roster spot and making it on and playing at the college level.
That's great, because we deal with a lot of families where neither, like you said, neither parent has played, or like all of us on this call, it was so different when we went through it. It's a total different experience now of club and all this other stuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
Hold on, Schafer, you're muted. Hold on, Schafer. I think you can unmute yourself.
There we go.
There we go.
I don't know how that happened. Yeah, I'm back. But
Okay.
Cedric, that's awesome stuff, and obviously being a part of that STARS program has been great. And I know one of the modules and one of the arms of the STARS program is eligibility and compliance. Can you kind of talk to our audience about how, NCAA and AI eligibility planning is different than kind of the pathway prep for your students, and the difference between that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that segment of that section of the student athlete readiness series is vital, and it's important for two reasons. Number one, it talks about the eligibility process and pathway that students and families need to follow. It's really driven, or a lot of it is driven through the NAIA or the NCAA clearinghouse, and the clearinghouse requirements and things that they need to do, and also the eligibility requirements between the two associations in terms of the core coursework, that you have to take, minimum GPAs, whether or not, the SAT or the ACT is applicable these days. But those qualifications or requirements. So it really outlines and identifies those key things that individual student athletes need to do in order to be academically eligible, certified as eligible, and therefore can play at the next level. Another segment or another part of the program that's key is Kelly Bradley, who is the content expert for that area. She worked for 20 plus years at the University of Florida within their academic services group there at the University of Florida for the student athletes. And she really talks about the transition between a high school athlete and a college athlete, what that transition looks like. She really gets into the first year athlete and a lot of her experiences with first year college athletes, mainly that she experienced at the University of Florida. And what were those pitfalls? A lot of them weren't academically ready. A lot of them weren't organized. A lot of them hadn't really managed things on their own. There was just a lot of things that went on with that, and so that's a part of this section that's also very important. So it gives you all of the concrete details that you need to know about eligibility across NAIA and the NCAA. But then it also talks about a lot of the transition and preparation for that transition elements for athletes if you want to be that athlete that plays, at the next level. So it's a very good section that everybody should know about.
It's great.
In addition to eligibility, what are some things that program talks about recruiting specific? What other topics or issues are you guys looking at besides eligibility for high school athletes going on to play at the next level?
That you said that are recruiting specific?
Yeah, recruiting specific.
I think the one of the key informational sections of that program is also the NIL section. And I think that really gives a grounding in terms of what NIL is all about, how NIL came about, how it came to be, how you should manage NIL, what expectations should you have about NIL, how to kind of juggle making college choices based on your education versus NIL, the education you will receive versus your NIL opportunities. The whole NIL world has kind of turned everything on its face, and people have expectations, some real, some not real. So I think that's a very key element, an important element that pertains to recruiting. That's important. We even have different segments about there's more detail about social media and the importance of reviewing your social media during the recruiting process, cleaning it, making sure that everything is representative of you and the message or your brand that you want to to create. So I think those things are important. We get into, there's different segments that talk about kind of your relationships at college, your relationships with your coach, your coaches, your relationships with your teammates, and how you're now a small fish in a bigger pond. And so how to deal with that, that aspect of it in terms of where you land to play your respective sport. So I think it gives you just a lot of different tools and insights and guidance about things that you really need to think about that will help that evolution, your evolution as a college athlete. And also with that transition as you're going through the process, some of the factors, some of the key things that you need to think about as you're going through your recruiting process, trying to land at the university that you want to go to for college.
Yeah. And Cedric, I'm glad you brought up NIL, because I don't think kids understand that has trickled into almost every level of college athletics. There's NIL at D2, there's NIL at NAI in Division III. You know, not at every school, but there are schools that are trying to find ways to provide that for athletes at certain sports. And so it's a factor and it's a thing, and it's something kids need to get educated on, not just because they're going Division I, but at every level of college athletics. So I'm glad you brought that up. Another arm of your STARS program that I think is genius, because I think it's such a factor as far as transitioning from high school to college, being on your own, competing against other student athletes, is mental health and mental performance, building an edge over the competition, and just overall mental health as a student athlete. So can you talk about that, that module and what that includes, and why you decided to add that to the STARS program?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, mental health, mental wellness is a big topic just in today's world in general. You'll read a lot of articles and hear a lot of news about it, and the importance of it. And it's definitely important at the competition level. The principle, the main thread behind that section is being able to reach your peak performance. And reaching your peak performance, there's a lot of things that need to happen. You not only, and the aspect that we're trying to get across here is that you train your muscles, you train, your sport, the techniques and different things that you need for your sport. But a lot of people overlook the training that's needed for your mental preparation. And it's just important. It is important to have or do that training, seek that training or that counsel for your mental for your mental training or your mental wellness. Sport performance, sport psychology, these are all terms that are under that umbrella. I think we've all competed, and I think being a student athlete is a very unique experience. You put yourself out there for failure or success, pretty much every game, sometimes even in practice. You got to get over it. You got to move on to the next. It can't stick with you too long if you had a bad performance. And a lot of people don't understand how to process that. A lot of athletes don't understand how to process that. And sometimes it builds and builds and builds. And you get to see like a second baseman that can't throw it to first base anymore. He's throwing it over the first baseman's head, right? It's something that he just needs to work through and get past. Is something that has built up and in his system and his repetition that makes him do that. And so it's the same thing for anybody's respective sport. You need to be able to figure out how to mentally process, stay mentally healthy, stay mentally free, in order to reach your peak performance. Your best of your best athletes are able to really hit their peaks the majority of the time. LeBron James has, he's great physically. Obviously, he's been fortunate to have great health. But I would also say that there's something within the way that he approaches his mental wellness that's also very elite as well. that allows him to get past being LeBron James and all the pressure that's on his shoulders and just perform. And so I think a lot of those aspects that are in there in this section kind of talk about that, talk about how to, get past bad performances, bad games, how to deal and compartmentalize. That's a big section. You got things going on in your life always that are outside of the sport that you're playing. And so, you got to figure out how to compartmentalize that. Set that aside for the duration of your practice or your game. Go execute, and then get back to solving or resolving whatever that issue is that you got going on in your personal life. A lot of people don't know how to do that. So this section really gets into kind of talking about that and how to manage those things, as well as a lot of the things that I said earlier, relationships, how relationships with your teammates, your coaches, how all of that really affects you, and how to manage that, to really turn that into a positive for yourself, and make sure that that's all these things aren't drags on your performance that prevents you from reaching your peak performance because you can't get past some of the mental elements.
Well, speaking
Yeah,
of
such a difference
performance,
maker.
yeah, speaking of performance, can you share, Cedric, some examples of some kids and some families who have gone through your program who, you're most proud of, these success stories that you guys have had?
Yeah, I mean, we've had individuals go through in my experience, some athletes, some not, just students, that have really achieved um, levels that they never thought that they could, that they didn't think that they were on track for. They didn't understand the pathway. They didn't see themselves on the pathway. But I would say once we began to work with them and they worked through a lot of the principles that are in our content, um, they began to identify their pathway. They began to understand the process to get through that pathway, and they broke it down into achievable segments where they then believed that they could achieve it. They could actually do it. And so we got one young lady, just from a student aspect, that came from a very tough background, lived in a border community, very broken family, abusive parent, um, was moving from house to house. She actually came to us at one of our school-based programs and talked to us personally. And we worked with her from I think it was eighth grade all the way through her senior year. She ended up going to Brown University, an Ivy League school, out of this little small border town community. Um, and I think she's probably already through med school, but she then applied for med school, and I believe she's a practicing doctor right now. And so that is absolutely crazy and insane. That's something that we're so excited about. One thing that I'll never forget, and one individual I'll never forget about. There was also a young man he was very disruptive in school and in class, and just it was just hard to find solutions for him. He played football, and was very talented, but just couldn't get it down academically. Didn't understand his pathway, didn't understand what was next for him. Once that, and there comes a time where that light switch flips for individuals that stay on it. And once that light switch flips, then they get it, they understand it, they follow it, they're disciplined. And I'm not saying you don't have fun and you don't act crazy and do those things. All that stuff is part of life, but they stay on their pathway. They don't get distracted and they don't fall off. This individual ended up playing at a small Texas A&M Kingsville University down here in South Texas. Ended up playing football there. and doing quite well. Got his degree, played football, had a great time. Became the disciplined athlete, disciplined student, and finished. And so, those are examples of individuals that didn't quite understand or see their pathway. But once they did and they stayed on it, they reached the goal that they set for themselves, and that's absolutely fantastic. And I would say we are, focused on, individuals who want to go to college, whether that's 4 year, that's 2 year, that's a trade school, um, that's the military, that's just into the workforce. What's important is identifying your pathway, understanding the process to get through that pathway, setting a timeline for yourself to get through that pathway, and then executing that plan. That's what it's about, and that's what we focus on.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. And obviously the last piece that Supportive Ed provides is college recruiting. I know that I'm part of that, which I'm blessed to be and honored to be a part of that. And just so our audience knows, some of the topics that we discuss in that module is what a college coach is looking for, looking in a college athlete. And yes, net results recruiting is a basketball service, but with Supportive Ed and the recruiting module, that it speaks to every athlete across all sports. So what are college coaches looking for in a student athlete? The 10 stages of the college recruiting process, because there are a ton of stages and different parts of it, and you've got to be prepared for each one of them. The different levels of interest you may receive from a college coach, from cold to warm to hot. Challenges that athletes face in the college recruiting landscape now with the transfer portal and the transfer rules and all those different things. And now professional athletes being able to come back and play college sports. It's crazy what's going on in college athletics. To things you can be doing as a freshman, a sophomore, junior, senior, prepare for your college recruiting process. So that's also something that Supportive Ed offers to students across the board as part of their STARS program. So what an awesome, offering with eligibility and mental health and college recruiting and NIL that kids have access to and stuff like that. And the academic pathways and the aid prep and all the academic support that Supportive Ed offers. It's just an awesome product that you provide for students and families, Cedric. And what we want to kind of end with is how can families, get in touch with Supportive Ed and get in touch with you to gain access to these platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. They can definitely go to our website, supportiveed.com. It's supportive and then ed.com. And so if they hit our website there, they can definitely see all the information about our programs and what we do, our background, our history. I don't know if my name and all that will be, visible to the viewers and all that, but CTEALER, C Tealer at supportiveed.com. I'm happy to answer any questions, provide any information to anybody. And that's the main, I think, venues to get a hold of us. Information at supportiveed.com as well, if that's easier to remember. That's our informational email, and it'll come to one of our people that we can also attach to people as well.
Social media handles, do you guys have those?
We do have those. I can't recite those off of the top of my head, but I know that Supportive Ed is linked to all of our names. So at Supportive Ed, I think, and I can't remember Facebook and those, but we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on X, and we're on LinkedIn. And so you can find us there.
We'll share those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody else manages that. I don't, but so I don't know those off the top of my head.
We'll post them for people to find you, because this is great stuff, Cedric, that people need to take advantage of. Whether you're an athlete or not an athlete, this is great stuff for kids all across the country. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I like I said, I thank you guys for having me and for me to have the opportunity to share some information about what we do. But I think it's just all around a support system to support athletes, student athletes with every aspect, every element that's going to help their odds, help their chances, help prepare them for the next level. And that academic piece is as important as the athletic piece, and we have things to help for sure.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, very comprehensive, and it's something that you players and you students watching should take advantage of. So again, Cedric, we really appreciate you taking the time tonight to be on and share your company and all that you do for students and families. And we wish you nothing but the best with support of that as we move forward.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, and same back to you guys.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode.
Basketball players, are you grinding in the gym but struggling to get noticed by college coaches? Your talent deserves the right exposure, and that's where Net Results Recruiting comes in. Whether you're in high school, junior college, or prep school, we help you connect with college programs, get you promoted to college coaches, and receive expert guidance throughout your recruitment journey. Don't leave your future to chance. Get exposure, get guidance, get results. Let our team find your team. Visit netresultsrecruiting.com today and take the next step towards your college basketball dream.